comments and questions. This is a section where members of the public may address the board for a limit of 2 minutes on items that are not on the agenda for this particular thing, for the special agenda, or well, for the special agenda, special meeting agenda. So I see a hand raised by Mr. William Smith. If you could let him speak or unmute him, Melanie, that would be great. And if we can get the timer going, that'd be great too.
I'll be brief. Good afternoon, commissioners and everybody. I just wanted to say I wanted to thank you for the Zoom format for these meetings. It has been very beneficial for those of us who cannot physically attend. It allows the public to participate, and I believe in a much more efficient manner. I know going forward this will be cumbersome, but to continue with it, I believe is a very important aspect of the new age. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? If you'd like to make a public comment for items that are not on the agenda, this is your opportunity to do so. I don't see any more hands, so I will close public comment for the special meeting. And at this time, commissioners will go into closed session, and you should have received a link for that, a separate link. So if you'd like to leave this meeting, I'm assuming now we are leaving this meeting and going into the new
President
meeting.
Crowley,
Yes.
item number 1 on the special meeting is the resolution for continuing the remote meetings. We need to take that action first before we go to closed session.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped that. Sorry. Considering resolution number 21-15, which is to authorize public meetings to be held via teleconferencing pursuant to government code section 54953E. Thank you, Jim. Would you like to kick it off with the staff report, please?
I can. Thank you very much, President Crowley, board members, and members of the public. The governor, as you recall, when the pandemic originally hit, issued executive orders N2520, N2920, and N3520, which allowed city councils and special districts and other elected bodies to meet remotely via electronic platforms such as Zoom, as we do, to not only protect the public, protect the board members, and slow the spread of the COVID-19 virus. Recently now, on September 16th, the governor signed another order, Executive Assembly Bill 361, which requires everybody all the boards to go back to in-person meetings unless they meet 3 different criteria that allows the board to continue meet remotely. To be able to do that, the board has to issue findings and sign a resolution. The local agency, or if we want to continue and take advantage of this, the local agency must meet the following criteria, to include holding a meeting during a proclaimed state of emergency. The state and local officials have imposed or recommended measures to promote social distancing. There is a state of emergency declared by the state for COVID-19 still in existence. The local agency is holding a meeting during a proclaimed state of emergency for the purpose of determining by majority vote whether the result of the emergency meeting in person would present imminent risks to the health or safety of the attendees, or the local agency is holding a meeting during a proclaimed state of emergency and has determined by majority vote that as a result of the emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risk in health and safety to the attendees. We prepared a proclamation for your consideration if you desire to continue to meet remotely as we are now. And it must be the first action we take at the board meeting before any other decisions take place. And I can read that resolution to you if you wish.
Please, Jim, if you don't mind.
Yes. Draft resolution number 2115, a resolution of the San Mateo County Harbor District authorizing the public meetings to be held via teleconferencing pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E and making findings and determinations regarding the same. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of the San Mateo County Harbor District is committed to public access and participation in its meetings while balancing the need to conduct public meetings in a manner that reduces the likelihood of exposure to COVID-19. And whereas all meetings of the board are open to the public as required by the Ralph M. Brown Act, so that other members of the public may attend, participate, watch the board conduct its business. And whereas pursuant to Assembly Bill 361, signed by Governor Newsom and effective on September 16th, 2021, legislative bodies of local agency may hold public meetings via teleconferencing pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E without complying with the requirements of Government Code Section 54953B3, the Brown Act, if the legislative body complies certain enumerated requirements in all the following circumstances. The legislative body holds a meeting during a proclaimed state of emergency, and that state of local officials have imposed or recommended measures to promote social distancing. The legislative body holds a meeting during a proclaimed state of emergency for the purpose of determining by majority of vote whether as a result of the emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risk in health and safety of attendees. The legislative body holds a meeting during a proclaimed state of emergency and has determined by majority vote that as a result of the emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risks to the health and safety of the attendees. Whereas on March 4th, 2020, Governor Newsom declared a state of emergency in response to COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas the Center of Disease Control and Prevention continue to advise that COVID-19 spreads more easily indoor than outdoor, and that people are more likely to be exposed to COVID-19 when they are closer than 6 feet apart from others for longer periods of time. Whereas due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and the need to promote social distancing to reduce the likelihood of exposure to COVID-19, the district intends to hold public meetings via teleconferencing pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E. Now, therefore, the Board of Commissioners of the San Mateo County Harbor District does resolve as follows. The recitals provided above are true and correct and are hereby incorporated by reference. The board hereby determines that as a result of the emergency, meeting in person presents an imminent risk to health and safety of attendees. The district shall conduct the meeting pursuant to Government Code 54953C. Staff is hereby authorized and directed to take all actions necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of this resolution, including conducting open and public meetings in accordance with Government Code Section 54953E and other applicable provisions of the Brown Act. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon its adoption.
Jim,
Motion
just
to
to,
approve this.
okay, is there a second? Well, hold on. Let me just ask a question that we might want
Peter
to
Grinnell,
incorporate
Peter Grinnell, or one other.
into the meeting or into the motion. So the emergency provisions have to be done at the beginning of the meetings, right?
The proclamation will be good for 30 days.
Right,
Or the
but at the
remote
next, right, so we have to do this every 30 days essentially, right?
Yes, every meeting then. Yes.
Right, pretty much. And so is this something that we can just put on the consent calendar so we just approve it? Because if that's the case, then Tom, I would ask that you make your motion to include these items on the consent calendar so that they're just approved before the regular meeting starts, if you don't mind.
Motion
Assuming
to
that's
approve.
okay, Tricia.
Yeah, so let me just make a minor clarification. This is the initial determination that you think that the board should be meeting remotely. And then every 30 days after that, you just have to make findings that there's continued health and safety risks. And all of those items can be on consent, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a resolution in the future. It could just be a minute motion that the words of the statute are that you've reconsidered the circumstances and that you've determined there's still a health and safety risk. So we could put that on future consent calendar for each meeting where you want to continue to meet remotely.
based on this resolution that we're
Correct.
approving today. Okay,
Correct.
okay, Tom. So I mean, I don't want to tell you what kind of motion you should make, but I think putting it on the consent would be helpful. I mean, does anyone else have any comments on that?
Motion amended as stated.
I'll second.
Any comments, Commissioner Zimke or Commissioner Lorenz?
No, I'm fine.
Can someone read what the motion as stated is so that we're clear on what we're voting for?
Yes.
You want me to help out with that?
If you want, but I mean, it's basically, it sounds, let me just pull it up. It's, whoops. It's basically, and just commit and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Matoush, but Commissioner Lorenz, it's to adopt resolution 21-15, authorizing public meetings to be held via teleconferencing pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E, and that these items that that we need to approve be put on the consent calendar.
Peter Grinnell, or one other.
Does that cover it, Tricia?
It does, that's correct.
And to put it on the consent calendar going forward.
Yeah, that's what I said. So does that make sense, Commissioner Lorenz?
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any comments?
No.
Okay, so there's a motion and a motion by Commissioner Matoush and a second by Commissioner Wiring. I don't see any public comments, but if there are any for this item, please raise your hand. Okay, I'll close public comment for this and let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Wiring,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crawley.
Aye, so that motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Jim, for reading this and for your help as well, Tricia. Thank you, thank you. So now we're going to the item that I thought we were going to earlier, which is going into closed session to deal with this item to a conference with real property negotiators. So at this time, commissioners, you should have received another link and we'll exit this meeting and go to the other meeting.
Okay.
And the
I'm
link
going
will
to-
be from Julie.
And before everybody leaves, President Crawley, they should
Yes.
just check and see if there's any public comment about this.
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you very much. If you would like to make any public comments on this item about the real property negotiations, this is your opportunity to do so, and you have 2 minutes to do so. If you would like to make that public comment, please raise your hand now. I'm opening up public comment.
Doesn't look like there's any public comment.
Okay, then I will close public comment and then we'll go into closed session now. Thank you.
Pause the recording.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.
to
But-
order.
What for, President Crawley, what you will do is we'll first report out of the closed session and then adjourn the special meeting and then go into the regular meeting.
Okay, sorry. Sorry about that. Okay. Then let me make the reportable item to the public is that by consensus, the board has directed the negotiators, the general manager and Jim Pruitt and Julie Van Hoff to speak with the lessees about terms of the lease. And so is there a meeting to adjourn the special meeting?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay, so there's a motion to adjourn the special meeting by Commissioner Matoush and a second by Commissioner Reiering. Roll call, please, Melanie.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz, think you're muted.
Yes.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Carley,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring.
Aye.
Okay, so that motion carries. And now I will call the regular meeting to order of the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Commissioners at 1:54 on October 20th, 2021. Roll call, please, Melanie.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
It's a roll call.
Aye.
A roll call.
It's a roll call.
I'm here.
Commissioner Chang
I'm
Carley,
here.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush.
Present and accounted for.
Okay, thank you. So I will open the public comment up right now for any member of the public who would like to address the board for a limit of 2 minutes for items that are not on the agenda. This is your time to do so. Let me see, do you see any hands?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, I will close public comment right now. And we will go to staff recognition for a very, very special person. Jim, I don't know if you want to kick this off, but there is a proclamation for Jim Merlot. But so why don't you just kick off this item?
We've had the pleasure of, in honor of having Jim Merlot as an employee in Harbor Master since September 22nd, 2003. And unlucky for us, he has decided to retire from the Harbor District and enjoy life. As you can see there, his prior picture, young blonde guy, to now a very sage gentleman with a 5-foot flounder or halibut. So I like the halibut picture better. If I could, I'll start off by reading the proclamation, the draft proclamation from the board.
Hey, wait, I was gonna do that, Jim.
Oh, you want to read that?
Yes, because I've known
Oh.
Jim Merlot longer than you have.
Yes, you have. I've only been, we met as children, but we don't recall each other as children. But there is a proclamation that the president will read. And then after that proclamation, I would enjoy the opportunity to let other staff members speak up and say a few words about Mr. Merlot. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Virginia, to read the proclamation. I apologize.
No problem. Thank you so much, Jim Pruitt. Jim Merlot, this proclamation is for you, and it's just barely touching the surface of all the things that you have done. But let me read this to you to honor you. Proclaimed by the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Harbor Commissioners, County of San Mateo, State of California, that whereas Jim Merlot has been a highly respected member of the San Mateo County Harbor District team since September 22nd, 2003, whereas he held positions of lead maintenance specialist, assistant harbor master, and harbor master, whereas through his technical expertise and expert knowledge, Jim Merlot has been a key part of the Harbor District for 18 years, whereas Jim sought to better the marina and provide excellent customer service to the public and marina tenants, making Oyster Point Marina a safe, clean, and pleasant place for all to enjoy. Whereas Jim worked hard to train and support deputy harbor masters and harbor worker subordinates, earning the respect of all. Whereas Jim discharged all duties and responsibilities of his employment in an exemplary manner through his tenure with the Harbor District. Whereas Jim understands the role of a public servant and for whom public employees work. Therefore, the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Commissioners, County of San Mateo, State of California, commends and thanks Jim Marlowe for his service and accomplishments at the San Mateo County Harbor District while serving as the harbor master. Witness my hand in the seal of the San Mateo County Harbor District this 20th day of October 2021. Commissioners Virginia Chang Corrali, Nancy Ryering, Tom Matoush, Bill Zimke, and Edmundo Lorenas. So Jim, congratulations on a fantastic career, and thank you so much for all that you have done for the Harbor District, and I know, and what you're going to continue doing in serving your community, because that's the kind of person that you are. So before you get to say anything, I want all the other commissioners and staff members to chime in so that we can all thank you and tell you how great you are. So I'll open it up to commissioner discussion or commissioner comments at this time.
You know, Jim,
Commissioner
I
Matthew?
remember when you were working on, what was it, BDOC, doing some electrical work when you first came in there, lifting the boards. And it's kind of like one of those, my God, you've come a long way now. It's been a pleasure knowing you and following your hobbies and all these different things. I look forward to hearing how retirement treats you. Maybe I can even take a lesson from you.
Commissioner Lorenas?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Jim for his service. Maybe now that you're not working for the district, we can go have a beer sometime.
Commissioner Zimke?
Yes, I guess I'm sorry that I don't know Jim any better, and I'm trying to think if I actually met him in person or not. But that aside, in South San Francisco, as soon as my friends and contacts at the city of South San Francisco found out that I was going to be the harbor commissioner, the first thing that they typically said to me is, "Boy, they've sure got a great harbor master out at Oyster Point." So it's going to be a big loss to see you go, and I hope that you have a great retirement. And thanks a lot for all the years that you put in serving the district.
Commissioner Ryring? I know that Commissioner Ryring might be having some connectivity problems, so let me just.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Jim, I want to thank you for being the eyes and the ears of the district at Oyster Point and for keeping the community abreast of what's been happening out there, especially during the time of heavy construction around the marina. You were a big help to me when I came on the board, and I want to thank you for your service to the district and wish you a wonderful retirement.
And Jim, last but not least of the commissioners, I feel like I have this wonderful relationship and friendship with you because from the moment I was appointed to the board and really not familiar with all of the operations, I knew I could count on you to help me and give me information and kind of teach me, you know, all of the inner workings of what happened or happens at Oyster Point, and now actually even at Pillar Point, because you're from the coast side. And so I just want to thank you for all of your help, encouragement, and support just to help me get started as my role on the harbor, or as a commissioner on the harbor board. Your institutional knowledge and historical perspective, because you've been around for such a long time, was just a huge help for me. And there's no better person to learn the ropes from than you. And I think your staff members would feel the same way. But on another note, in terms of customer service, I know that there are slip holders there at Oyster Point who absolutely think that that everyone does a great job there and provides great client service. So I want to give you that feedback as well. And not just this year, but for a long time. So thank you for, as Nancy said, being the eyes and ears out there, and also just being an inspiration to me and a huge help to me and your staff too, an inspiration to them. So thank you. And good luck on your retirement, although I hope that you don't go too far away. Staff members, Julie or John, I don't know if you have anything to say.
I'd like to start off as director of operations. Worked very closely with Jim over my last 5 years with the district. However, even before I was hired, I went into Oyster Point and was immediately impressed by what I saw Jim doing there and the way that he interacted with his staff and the tenants. And throughout my 5 years here, that has just been solidified, that feeling. He's quite a remarkable man, person, harbor master, the best, I gotta say, I've seen in my career. He not only led staff by example. There was no job that Jim Merlo wouldn't do, from picking up garbage to cleaning out toilets. Staff knew that all the entire time that they worked for Jim, and respected that. But also the tenants saw that. Very few complaints, over 5 years I've been here, got to me from Oyster Point. But even those that did, the tenant that had concerns spoke very, very highly of Jim Merlo. It was very refreshing. All of the more challenging conversations off on a good foot. Never any concerns with his professionalism or customer service, which is remarkable. A lot of times, human beings try to use anything to their advantage. At any rate, Merlo again has the respect of me, all upper management, his team at Oyster Point, and all of the tenants. Not only at Oyster Point, but I can say Pillar Point as well, because Jim has a long history from a young man, like you saw in the photo when he was younger. He started out as a commercial fisherman at Pillar Point Harbor. So all of the fish buyers, most tenants at Pillar Point also know of Jim. And remarkably, never did I hear one negative thing. To the contrary, all very positive. A lot of times people won't say anything if they don't have anything good to say. But as far as Jim Merlo goes, everybody's had something to say, and it was all very positive. His reputation stands for itself. Just quite a remarkable person, father, somebody to look up to. And we're gonna miss you, Jim.
Thank you, John. Julie?
Yeah, we already miss you, Jim. Anytime you want to come back, we'll find a role for you. I think that you're just a very kind, nice person. I've enjoyed working with you over the last 3 years. I see how much you love your family, so they're very lucky to be able to spend more time with you now that you're retired. And I just wish you all the best in your retirement, and hopefully we'll run into each other over on the coast side here, and wish you all the happiness in the world.
Anyone else? I'm happy to open this up to public comment now as well. And I see that
I'd
there is
actually like to say something.
Oh, sorry, Melanie, please. And then we'll open it up to public comment. So hold on. Thank you, Melanie.
And I just want to thank him for being so patient with me. And I'm glad that I don't have to listen to his terrible music anymore. And thanks for buying me lunch. And just thanks for being my friend. It was really fun working at Oyster Point, and I miss you.
Any other staff member? Well, now we'll take public comment, and I see a couple of hands raised. Jacob Walding. Melanie, can you please unmute Jacob?
Yeah, he should be able to unmute himself.
Okay,
You guys
thank
hear
you.
me?
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
I'd just like to say, Jim, it was an honor serving with you. You led a life well served and well lived. Enjoy retirement. And one of the best things about you, Jim, was even when we were at odds for whatever reason, we were always able to speak frankly and candidly, and there were no hard feelings, and we either came to terms and saw eye to eye or didn't. And you led by example, and that is truly admirable this day and age. And sorry to see you go into retirement, but enjoy it and catch a bunch of big fish, man.
Thanks,
And that's
Jake.
it.
Thank you. Jay Smith.
There we go. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hey, Jim, how's it going? I hope you're enjoying retirement. We all miss you already, like you said when you left. Jacob spoke very well saying what he said. You've been a great mentor for me, and yeah, you'll be missed a lot here. And thanks for everything you've done over the years to help me become who I am. So hope you're enjoying it. Take care.
All right, buddy.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who would like to make a comment about Jim? Okay, Jeff Clark?
Jeff Clark here. Growing up on the coast and knowing Jim pretty much my whole life, from school to his work and participation in the community. Straight shooter, always get a smile and a helping hand. And he kind of embodies what our coast is about. Just a great man. Sorry to see you go, Jim, but I'll see you on the street. And yeah, go catch some big fish. Take care.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. John Ullum?
Hello. I just wanted to say I only met Mr. Merlot once. And so we had no kind of relationship or friendship. But I do remember that when I asked him questions, he gave me extremely direct answers. There was no dancing around or trying to sugarcoat things. And someone mentioned earlier that the way he did his job was exemplary and example for all of you. I think that you should all look at that he was a really straight guy, and you asked him a question, you got an answer. And that has not been my experience with most of the Harbor District. So I thank Mr. Merlot. I wish that your attitude was more like what the rest of the Harbor District. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Then I will close public comment for this item and let Mr. Merlot speak if he wishes to say anything. Hi, Jim.
Well, thanks everybody for the kind words. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm still right here. I'm just enjoying my time. Like I said earlier, I find it interesting that I had time to work before I retired, because I'm really enjoying it, having a good time. I'm just moving on to different aspects of my life. Going to do some other things that I've always been wanting to do. And my wife and I are going to be doing some traveling, taking care of my granddaughter every Monday, and just enjoying our lives. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure working for the Harbor District. It really has been. If you have to work somewhere, the Harbor District is a great place to work. Everybody likes to complain about their jobs and stuff like that. But like I told my staff all the time, you're being paid to be here, and this is a job. It's not a prison sentence. If you don't like it here, you can choose to leave. It's a choice. And And I'm glad I chose to work for the Harbor District. I really enjoyed it and look forward to continuing supporting you guys and the community. So thanks again. Thank you so much for all the kind words.
Thank you, Jim. Jim Pruitt, I'm not sure if you even had a chance to say anything more if you'd like to, but Jim Rouleau, thank you so much for your service and for being a friend to everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Jim, you're a remarkable person, you're a remarkable man, extremely well respected by all. And I did appreciate the 2 years we did get to work together. The work you did at Oyster Point is remarkable, given all the construction that's been going on that, creating it into a mud pit and keeping all our tenants as happy as we can. You did a remarkable job. So I thank you for that. And continue fishing and, as Jim Smith said, catch some fish.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Happy retirement.
Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you very much.
Thanks. So Jim Pruitt, we'll get that commendation to Jim Rouleau soon, correct? You're on mute, Jim Pruitt.
I know where he lives. I'll get it delivered.
Okay. Oh no, Jim, that's like the scary part. We all know where you live, so we might have to drag you back to work.
Yeah, pretty tough. Pretty tough for me to play hooky. Everybody knew if I was, called in sick and I really wasn't sick.
Thank you, Jim.
You bet. Thank you very much. Bye now.
Bye. So now we're on to the consent item of our agenda. Is there anyone who'd like to pull off any consent items?
I'd like to pull item 7.
Okay,
And I'd like to pull item 1 and 8.
1 and 8, okay. Commissioner Zimke or Commissioner Ryring?
Oh, I'm fine.
No, I'm good.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the consent calendar for items 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6?
So moved.
And I will second that.
Okay, we have a hand raised for public comment. I'll take public comment now for the consent items. John Ullum.
In addition to items 1 and 8, please pull item 5. Thank you. Okay.
There's a motion to approve items 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And there's a second. Any comments? We can just do a vote. Okay, no comments. Let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you. So let's put these other consent items that were pulled to the beginning of the discussion items, because a lot of them have to do with, or all of them have to do with Harbor District business. So I'll start with item number, bills and claims. Commissioner Lorenz, you pulled that item off. Would you like to discuss that?
Yes, give me a second. Let me open it up.
Okay.
And actually, it's also related to item number 8, so we can discuss both at the same time.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, because you pulled off item 8 too, is right? Is that correct?
That's
I
right.
think that's right. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So there is a payment of $33,399 to Connected LLC. It's just on the, if you guys have this in front of you, it's on recommended motion in that item. And so I'd just like to hear from the general manager what that's all about, if you would.
With your permission, President Crowley?
Yeah, so let me just make this really clear. So, Commissioner Lorenz, once the general manager discusses his rationale, then would that satisfy you for number 8 as well? Because it were kind of related to that line item. I mean, we'll wait and, I mean, you can make that determination after the
Yeah.
general manager. Okay,
We're one step at a time.
okay, that's fine. Jim?
Yeah, item, the request to approve the $33,000 for Think Connected LLC and item number 8 are the same issue or the same thing. As the COVID pandemic is lifting, and as the governor issued new executive directions and signed new bills on how we host meetings, and the strong desire by the public as voiced at almost all of our meetings, I thought it was necessary to outfit our boardroom, so that when we return to in-person meetings, we can have a hybrid meeting of both in person and by video, which looks like it's allowed by state law. So people that cannot make it to the coast side due to traffic or other issues can still join our meeting and provide us some input via Zoom, the platform that we're using now. The majority of the $33,000 is, if not most or all of it, is equipment for new computers, new screens, new microphones, a server, and so that we have the ability to run a multi-person Zoom meeting, and also be able to support the internet side or the video side of the meeting as it's ongoing. So that's the request for emergency procurement that I authorized it. The reason I authorized it before coming to the board and after discussing it with the president was we needed to get it done, order the equipment in time so that we can have it ready to go as early as the November, or actually as early as today, but I didn't have it done today because of the motion to stay remote. But our hope is to have it done by November 17th if the board elects to meet in person at that time.
Great. That covers it. Thank you,
Do you
Jim.
want to make a motion for item 8 then, Commissioner Lorena, since you took that item off?
We do have one public comment from the
Oh, yes, okay. Let me take that first, Ed, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so John Olam, is this for the bills and claims item?
Well, I guess it's for item number 1. I tried to pull item 5 also. Yes, this is for item 1, but I also tried to pull item 5, but you missed that. At any rate, my brother and I used to televise Harbor District meetings. We brought 2 cameras. We had multi-angle shots. We put in what's that called, lower thirds for identifying people. We broadcast it live to the entire world. And we did that with about $500, maybe $1,000 worth of equipment in our time. What could you possibly be spending $33,000 for when it comes to just broadcasting a meeting? The idea that you need to buy new servers, that's ridiculous. You need just a little tiny laptop. The idea you need expensive cameras is ridiculous. You can buy 2 HD cameras for $1,000. It's an easy thing to DJ. If you want to spend another $800, you can get a mixer. So I've got to ask, what is the $33,000 for? Is it just for the Zoom meetings? Or is it more to do with buying a lot of equipment and then just throwing the Zoom thing in there as an excuse as to why it had to be spent fast? Thank you.
Any other public comments for the consent item? If you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please raise your hand. Okay, then I will close public comment for item 1. Actually, so is there a motion to approve item 1 for the bills and claims?
I'll move to approve item 1 for the bills and claims.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Let's do a roll call, please, Melanie.
Commissioner Chan Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryrie,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Aye.
So I'm going to just take something a little bit out of order. Commissioner Arenas, does that satisfy your pulling off item 8? Because if it is, then we can, if you'd like to make a motion to approve item 8, that's fine. If you don't, we can come back to it for discussion after, or we can do it now if you'd like.
Now let's approve item 8.
Okay,
I
would you
move
like to
to
make
approve
that
it.
motion?
I make a motion that we approve item 8.
I'll second that.
Let me just make sure that we actually read that motion, which would be
Recording in progress.
Aye.
Commissioner
include all the public. Item number 7, which is pulled off of consent by Commissioner Mateusz. This is for the lease between the district and Keat Nurhan doing business as KN Properties, and approve assignment to Pillar Point Harbor LLC doing business as Pillar Point RV Park. Commissioner Mateusz.
There are times when you don't want to be a commissioner because people ask you too many questions and want you to explain everything. Now we're in a board meeting, so perhaps we can get a little more clarity on this. I didn't understand this, was unable to tell people what was going on. Is this simply a name change? And I believe that there's just too much confusion with saying Pillar Point in the name, and this is Pillar Point Harbor. So there was some angst in the community. There are a lot of different names that could have been chosen. And I don't know how my other commissioners feel about this, but I'm wondering if you could toss this back and have this something that wasn't so similar to the Harbor District name.
This is a request from Keat Nurhan to change his name on the lease to a name that he's already filed for and is his legal entity LLC. So I just wanted to try to clarify that.
Yeah, so I understand that, Julie. I actually have to agree with Commissioner Mateusz on this. And actually the name of the LLC is Pillar Point Harbor LLC, not just Pillar Point. So it's actually the name of a public place. And I think what concerns me is that that the Harbor District would almost be, it would look like that we're associated with a private LLC when we're not. And you know, that concerns me a little. I wish that Mr. Nurhan had actually spoken with us about this, and maybe he didn't have to, but I think as a good partner, that would have been a nice thing to have done, considering Pillar Point Harbor is the name of a public area and a public pier. I'm also concerned about the fact that if there's a legal dispute, it looks like, you know, Pillar Point Harbor would be suing the Harbor District or vice versa. I mean, I don't think anything like that would happen, but I'm just saying if something like that happened, it does not look great. So, I mean, those are my concerns at this point. I'm not sure if the general manager has talked to Mr. Nurhan about this, but I don't know, it just seems like there could have been other names such as Pillar Point RV Park, or, you know, I get that an LLC would be a more encompassing organization that could have other, you know, sub businesses in it. But I think Pillar Point Harbor implies that the harbor is doing that kind of business, which we're not.
I have
Any other-
not engaged with Mr. Nurhan about the naming he's choose for his business. I would like to point out that Pillar Point Harbor LLC is the name of the business that is being filed, that's already been filed and approved by the state. But he'll be doing business as Pillar Point RV Park. So he will, the outgoing name is going to be Pillar Point RV Park. And as you correctly stated, President Chincarelli, it's a name of a public place, and we'd be very challenged to prevent him from using that name, Pillar Point Harbor, because Pillar Point Harbor is not only the harbor itself, but it's a public place and a public name that's out there. So if we tried to force him, it would be very challenging and costly for the district to do that.
I have a few comments.
Please, Commissioner Lorenas.
First of all, thank you, Tom, for pulling this. I was going to pull it if you didn't. I appreciate it. one concern I have, and maybe we can get some clarity on this, and that is this just merely a name change, or are there other implications for the district with respect to what's happening here?
I believe
From our
that it's,
understanding, go ahead, Julie.
oh, yeah. I believe that it's only a name change, and it was Keat Nairnhan operating as an individual, but because we are requiring a personnel guarantee, that he would still have that requirement to be personally liable for any monies owed to the district. It is a little bit of a different entity because it's going from Keat Nairnhan as an individual to a limited liability corporation.
Right, and that did concern me a little bit. Now we're dealing with a limited liability corporation, and I'm not a lawyer, but I'd like to know a little more about what the implications of that are. You know, he's a business person, doesn't have the interest of the district at heart, and we have to protect ourselves. So are there any other implications to this? Can he, you know, we have a lease with him. We're transferring the lease. I guess we're just transferring the lease from its current name to and Pillar Point Harbor RV Park. So the terms of the lease are not going to change. I can see that from what you've written. It's just mere formality, or what do these changes imply for the district? What I'm hearing, maybe Trish can answer this, and what I'm concerned about is there something changing for us?
Well, he is changing, I mean, the action is to assign it to his corporation or his LLC that he's created. I guess I would need more time to be able to tell you what that means. As a practical matter, if he's still guarantee, it seems that he would be held personally liable. He couldn't use the shield of the LLC to prevent him from being personally liable after that transfer. Yeah, so, I would have to do more research to tell you exactly what all the implications are, because I don't know that offhand, but it seems that, the significant issues would be, he's going to personally be liable for unpaid rent to the extent that the LLC doesn't observe that obligation.
Well, I, for one, would be happier if we knew exactly what the implications were.
Yeah, I agree with you, Commissioner Lorenas, and I think you've kind of articulated my concerns as well. And I mean, I just want us to be prepared. I think Ed, that's probably what you're thinking as well, just understanding the implications. I mean, I think there are so many other things that bother me. These are the things that kind of touch the surface. I don't know. I mean, it is, and it's a name change. It's basically assigning the lease to this entity, which is the same name as our public peer.
But it's not just a name change, if I understand this.
Right. Well, yeah, the LLC is a different type of business entity.
Right.
And we can look on the lease. I mean, you may and see what the lease says about whether or not you're required to agree to consent to the assignment.
Well, I mean, here's the thing,
Tricia.
Oh, sorry. Can I just make this one comment,
Yeah.
Ed? So essentially, I understand that Pillar Point Harbor is a public name, right? But that's actually part of the thing that I believe that the commission, and rightly so, as elected officials or elected representatives of people who live in San Mateo County, and we represent the agency called the San Mateo County Harbor District, that there's, it just feels like there might be unintended consequences from the use of this name that could be abused, because that can be viewed as being abused for a beloved public harbor.
Should we put this?
Commissioner
I'm
Wiring?
in agreement with the comments that have been made so far, and I'm wondering if we should put this off to a future agenda and get back information from Tricia.
I'd like to see this at a closed session so we can have a legal discussion about this.
That's fine. But let me, before we make a
Something
decision,
that could be discussed in a closed session. I'm not sure that this meets one of the
Brown Act
criteria.
exemptions,
Yeah.
right? But let me open this up to public comment, because there are 2 hands raised right now, and I'd like to hear what they have to say. So I noticed that John Olam has had his hand raised for a little while. So Mr. Olam.
Thank you, President Corrali. Your objection to the name change, or the name he's using, is ridiculous. There's a company called Half Moon Bay Associates. There's a company called Half Moon Bay LLC. You can find one in Menlo Park, also Menlo Park Associates. There is no chance that anybody's going to make this leap. Because we'll ever see till the point LLC unless you sue them. And it's obvious that you won't, because for 20 years, the lease has been divided. They've had that closed, and people have been using the bushes. It's specifically in the lease that he leave that bathroom open, restroom open, and you've allowed him to run with you.
I believe John got disconnected or lost.
Yeah, sounds like it. So we have another hand raised, William Smith. Mr. Smith. Can he unmute himself, Melanie? Mr. William
I'm
Smith?
sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, President Crowley. I have to agree with Commissioner Lorenas that this will create much confusion as for the harbor. And I can just envision people trying to do a Google search to get to the harbor, and it's going to come up with this. I can see there can be a lot of implications around that. I would also advise that you talk to the lawyers and see what the legal ramifications of this are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. John Olam, your connectivity was spotty, but I'll let you have your 2 minutes again.
Thank you, President Corrali. Well, I think the first part of that statement was very clear that I've got to believe that your objection to the name is rather petty, and that nobody is going to confuse anything. You have a far more reasonable objection, and that is that this tenant has routinely violated his lease for the 20 years that he's had it. The restroom is closed. Other provisions of the lease have been ignored. And to this day, there is no coastal development permit for that park. That is being asked to transfer the park into ownership of a new entity. And you need to be clear on that it is a completely different person now that you're doing business with. I know it's mentioned that he signed a personal, or is going to sign a personal guarantee. That's great. but I'm pretty sure that that lease is going to long outlive Mr. Nehan because you guys gave him a 50-year lease.
So I don't know what happened.
I believe he got disconnected again.
Okay.
Now I believe he's back on.
Okay, so I'm gonna give Mr. Ullum his remaining 45 seconds. If you wouldn't mind putting the timer on to 45, this will be his third attempt to speak. And we need to continue with the business. So if you could put the timer at 45 seconds, that would be great. Thank you. Mr. Ullum?
Just to be clear, I have a clear signal here. I don't know why I keep getting cut off. Somebody's doing it. At any rate, I don't need 45 seconds. This is straight. I don't know if nobody's me off at the other end.
John, we're having a very hard time. We can't hear you. It's like double.
That's excellent. Well, I'll try my best. Mr. Nehan is going to outlive that the guarantee on his personal guarantee. That lease goes until 2049. So how does that affect things, knowing that he's going to outlive his personal guarantee? Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to close public comment at this time. And commissioners, let's just figure out how y'all want to proceed with this. It sounds like we could have Trisha do some more research to deal, to kind of assuage our legal, or the concerns that we have from a legal perspective. What other, that seems to be like the main option at this time.
Could a name change like this trigger a change in the lease? Because there's been a lot of angst about the lease, and a name change, an ownership change, would that trigger something where we could bring the lease up for discussion?
Well,
Trisha,
those are things that we can discuss in closed session. So I'm going to make a motion that we move this
well,
item.
hold on, Commissioner Ryring. I don't mean to interrupt, but Trisha, what is permissible in a closed session?
For real property negotiations, it's limited to price and terms of payment. So I don't think the name change would be something that you would discuss that you can discuss in a closed session. So as I understand it, there's the issue that you want me to look at is what is the legal significance of assigning the lease from an individual to an LLC. I don't think there's anything we can do about him forming a corporation or an LLC that includes the name Pillar Point Harbor. But what you're concerned about is what are the legal implications of assigning the lease to this new entity.
That's
and I
right.
think as part of that,
Right.
also whether or not, what is the scope of your review of this consent, and what does the lease say about it?
Well,
I would agree with Tom's point that it would be good to know whether reassigning it also allows us to renegotiate the lease for the reasons he stated. And as far as the name change, I don't really care about that. I don't see that as a significant problem.
So, Trisha, my thing is, if we don't assign this or approve this, there could be a lawsuit or legal action against the Harbor District, potentially.
We'll take a look at that. That'll be part of the analysis.
Right, but that could be threat of litigation, which is a Brown Act exemption, correct?
It would have to be an actual threat of litigation, though.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So then let's move this item off into a future agenda, and in which case right now Jim, it sounds like the lease is still under the original name. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, is the commission okay with that direction? Trisha, do you want to just repeat the direction that we've kind of given you
Sure.
and Jim, if you
Sure.
don't mind, just so
yeah.
that everyone's clear?
I understand that what you're asking me to look at is what is the legal significance of having the lease assigned to an LLC as compared to an individual? And then also, what are the parameters for the district's review and approval of the consent?
Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah, that
Commissioner?
sounds fine to me.
Commissioner Ryring, does that help?
Yeah.
Does that help clear things up for you as well? Okay. Okay, that sounds good. So you have direction then, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the other discussion items. Number 9, which is the Maverick Surf Company. So as I reported out, there's direction given to the general manager and to Julie Van Hoff. So as soon as things get resolved with the direction that we've given to them, the negotiators, the general manager has also been directed to put this item back on a future agenda. So we'll hold off on item 9 at this point, or this item. And we'll go to item 10, which is revenue and income ad hoc committee report, design and engineering for Johnson Pier. Jim, would you like to kick off this item?
Yeah, good afternoon again, President Crowley, board members. This is a revenue and income ad hoc committee report following the September 23rd, 2021 meeting, and I'll be presenting it on behalf of the ad hoc committee. The issues that are the topics that we covered in the ad hoc committee was the recent history of Johnson Pier going back to 2017. The general manager's decision to restart the design and engineering phase of the Johnson reconfiguration project, and the general manager's decision to complete a structural investigation into the pilings of Johnson Pier. The committee is recommending that the board approve the general manager's decision to restart the design and engineering efforts in accordance with the original professional service agreement executed on March 1st, 2019. Approve the placement of the design and engineering for Johnson Pier H-dock replacement to the approved and funded category under a 5-year capital improvement plan, adding $1,203,866 for reappropriation of the Moffett and Nickel contract. Approve an increase in capital expenditure appropriations by $1,203,866 to be funded with available working capital. Approve the general manager's decision to execute change order number 1 in the amount of $28,200 to the professional service agreement with Moffett and Nichols to complete a structural investigation of the pilings of Johnson Pier. Approve increase in funding be funded with available working capital. The applicable ordinances is the general manager's procurement authority as provided in our ordinances, and then the authorization which I provided as general manager was underneath the emergency expenditures, which requires me to come back to the board for approval. It aligns with our district strategic plan through we provide excellent facilities and services to our commercial fishing fleet and advocate for sustainable practices. Our core value, we are accountable to the public and to the future generations to act in a fiscal responsibility and transparency. And then with our goals and objectives under the strategic plan to provide excellent customer service, enhance public safety, ensure good governance and administration, ensure fiscal responsibility. On September 23rd, 2021, the Revenue and Ad hoc Committee did meet. The ad hoc meeting was agendized, noticed, and open to the public. The Johnson Pier was constructed in 1961. It's the anchor of Pillar Point Harbor, but it's also well known that in its current configuration, the pier does not meet the needs of the harbor or all its users. The following paragraph in the staff report is a quote from the 1991 master plan, stating that the pier is overcrowded, that the trucks are on the pier cause crowding and limit the parking on the pier and or truck traffic to one lane. And then also the head of the pier is extremely overcrowded and causing safety issues. So, and that same concern is today. In 2021, 30 years later, again, the problems stated in the 1991 master plan still exist, even though slightly improved over the years, but overall still exist. This is especially true when you consider the number of visitors in the harbor that we receive for off-the-boat sales now and sightseeing. Also considering the fact that the vessels are larger, the trucks are larger, totes are larger, forklifts and other equipment operated by the fishermen today are much larger than in 1991. In December 2018, the board, recognizing major renovations and reconfigurations were needed, authorized for safety of the pier and to serve the public, authorized an issuance of a request for proposal seeking a qualified design and engineering firm. On March 20th, 2019, the board approved to combine the Johnson Pier project with the HSOC replacement project to gain the benefits of economy of scale. And the board further authorized the interim general manager to execute a work directive amendment in the amount not to exceed $1,318,000 to combine the HSOC replacement project with the Johnson Pier reconfiguration project for design, engineering, and permitting. On March 21st, 2019, that work directive was executed. Then during the development of the 2020-2021 budget, the operation budget and 5-year capital improvement plan, it was noted that the district had multiple capital improvement projects underway or planned, but lacked the funding to execute all the projects at once. The total identified funding was approximately $48 million, and the funds certain to be available were approximately $14.5 million. To enable the district to focus on and complete projects with available funding, the projects had to be prioritized. Staff, using the following considerations, developed a list of projects and recommended them for funding. The questions were asked: is the project required by legal obligations or other agreements? Does the project have high public or environmental benefit? Does the project enhance safety or provide district-wide benefits? And the cost of the project. On May 14th, 2020, we held a virtual public meeting, and staff provided the recommendations to the public and sought public and stakeholder input. On July 24th, 2020, after considering staff's recommendation and input provided by the May 14th Community Forum, the board adopted the 2020-2021 capital improvement project. In that approval, they removed the funding for the Johnson Pier reconfiguration, HDOC, and fuel dock replacement due to lack of funding to fund the overall project. The project was moved into an approved category, but unfunded. Johnson Pier and fuel dock, just said that, sorry about that. One of the major considerations was the cost and the fact that it was not required by law to expand the Johnson Pier. On May 19th, 2021, taking into current configuration of Johnson Pier, the multiple users of the pier, public input, and the board approved Johnson Pier operational safety plan. The plan significantly improved the safety on the pier, but while allowing operations to continue in its current configuration. However, it is just a stopgap measure until the pier could be properly sized and outfitted for the current uses. Major modifications to the pier are still needed. In May of 2021, as part of the master plan development, A survey was conducted with respect to the material condition of Johnson Pier. GHD, the consultant conducting the survey, found some of the reinforced concrete beams supporting portions of the deck to be in poor condition and appeared to be overstressing by excessive loading, and one pile under the fish fire building itself noted to be in poor condition. As this morning, we received a report from the contractor, which we hired to do that structural investigation into those pilings. And the pilings, the cracks in the pilings have been found to be the result of rusting metal in the pilings. And then once they did the destructive testing, found that it was minimal wastage, 5%. So they recommend that the pier continue to operate with its current capacity limits. So that was great news on the pier. We don't need to immediately address the pilings. It is also believed to address the issues identified in the supporting to address the issues identified with the concrete piling supporting Johnson Pier. Again, I executed an existing contract with Moffitt and Nichols in the amount of $2820, which I'm asking the board to approve. Then we show the staff report has a picture of one of the pilings. The additional action that I took with response to Johnson Pier also is on June 28th, 2021, the general manager authorized funding to resume the design and engineering of Johnson Pier and the H-Dock replacement project for the purpose of qualifying for grants, which may cover permitting costs, NEPA, and 35% of the design and engineering costs. To qualify for these grants, the project must be shovel ready with design and permitting completed. Because the project was placed on hold in the budgeting process, the decision to restart design and engineering needs board approval, and the designing and engineering process must be moved into the approved and funded portion of the capital improvement plan. And if you like, I can reread the recommended motions from the committee if you'd like.
No, I think that we're fine. Those are basically the three recommendations, right? So is there a motion to approve the committee recommendations?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'm going to, before we start our commissioner discussion, I'll open this up to public comment, and I see a hand raised, John Olam.
Thank you, President Corrali. As Mr. Pruitt pointed out, the issues you were dealing with were identified 30 years ago. And in that 30 years, the kind of leadership the Harbor District has been provided by the commissioners has resulted in seriously misunderstood priorities. You got a report that told you 30 years ago, you've got a dangerous situation, and we still have that situation. But now you don't have any money, and you're talking about taking on debt. But you can't take on much debt because of the spending priorities you've set for the district. I mean, even to this day, you're talking about building a new shopping center out at Oyster Point, when it's been noted in your reports that you haven't even gotten around to talking about the existing shopping mall that you have that's falling apart, that produces, though, a lot of revenue for the district. And you haven't even gotten around to that. You're worried about building a building at another district's or another entity's property. The bad decisions that have been made for the last 30 years are not all your fault, obviously, but it was Tom Matoush and Virginia Chan Corrali, along with Robert Bernardo, that voted to commit to another 15 years of subsidizing another district at $2 million a year. So there's $30 million in subsidies right there that could have been used to work on what you need done at Pillar Point Harbor to keep the main reason for the harbor in existence going. You need to look at yourselves. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment? William Smith?
Thank you, President Crowley. One issue that that just sticks in my craw around this is that, yes, back in 1991, under the master plan, there was the impact on the pier was addressed about the traffic on the pier. We're still seeing that, but in a exponentially increased amount of trucks on the pier compared to what was going on in 1991. Just to be clear, that my customer is pulling a little cart with a 5-gallon bucket and his 2 rods down the pier do not cause the kind of impact on this pier that these trucks do. I believe that there should be some kind of limitation on that. That's one thing I just don't feel that's being addressed in this. Thank you.
Thank you. So there is a motion and a second, so I'll open it up to commissioner discussion now. Commissioner Mateusz?
I was struck by a phrase that General Manager Good said, the current capacity limits. And I'd point out that 30 plus years ago, the trucks that were coming out on the pier are considerably smaller than what we're seeing, the 53 footers and so on now. Somebody's should be on mute, it isn't.
Commissioner Ryring?
Yeah, I want to thank our staff for all the work that's been involved in addressing these issues at Johnson Pier over this long period of time, and especially thanks Jim for this report. And I want to thank all the members of the public who have turned out and participated in our meetings. And yeah, I'm ready to vote on this.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Yeah, as you expect, I have a comment on this. I think if there is one item on our agenda today and probably on any future agendas that exemplifies the reasons not to spend money in Oyster Point, it's Johnson Pier. I still say it's outrageous that we're spending, and we have it on the agenda, next agenda item. Let's spend money on Oyster Point. And as was pointed out by Mr. Olam, if we had not spent all the cash that we have on doing work for Oyster Point, because it is, and I'll say it again, we don't own Oyster Point. It's owned by the city of South San Francisco. We keep giving them money. We could have used the money on this pier. I'm happy to see that we're moving, however, slightly in that direction. And I'd like to also just say for the public that this problem is not something that staff created. It's something that the commissioners created. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. So I am glad that the motion's on the table. I think we have a great opportunity to, be the countywide agency that we are, and to do as much as we can to spend tax dollars wisely on infrastructure, and instead of wasting tax dollars on frivolous and ridiculous allegations that we've had in the past. So I am glad and thankful that that the staff has worked hard in trying to get things to pencil out, and I am very glad that the public has given their input. We open up the ad hoc committee meetings to the public, which is not normally the protocol, but we wanted public input, and I'm glad that we had a good turnout for our meetings. So with that said, we do have a motion and a second, and I think this is a chance for us to continue moving forward. So can we take a vote, Melanie?
Commissioner Mateusz?
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Chan Crowley,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryder.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries. Thank you. So going on to our next item, which is item 11 from the Revenue and Ad Hoc Committee, Capital Improvement Plan Budget Adjustment, which is for recommendation to authorize the general manager to proceed with the following additional capital improvement projects that were not listed as funded projects in the 2021-22 adopted capital improvement plan. Jim, would you like to start off with this item and do the report?
I'd like to turn it over to Julie Van Hoff if that's appropriate.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Julie, thank you.
All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Right, so this staff report, actually it's a revenue and income ad hoc committee report. I'll go ahead and discuss the recommendation of that committee. The recommendation includes adding some additional projects as approved for the harbor manager to proceed with, and some funding options for projects that we don't have an identified funding source for. The district currently requires the board to approve appropriations prior to awarding contracts. The budget will not require an adjustment to current appropriations, except for the reinstitution of the design and engineering contract that was previously approved at this afternoon's meeting. The board has already approved additional amounts needed for the purchase of the admin building and the West Shore Protection Building. This committee report basically has a motion to allow the general manager to proceed with additional capital improvement projects that were not listed in the funded projects in the 21-22 adopted capital improvement plan. Those projects include Oyster Point Marina West Basin access ramps for docks 1 through 6, and Oyster Point Marina 40,000 square foot parcel building, Pillar Point Harbor replacement of dock G, F, and E, engineering, Johnson Pier reconfiguration, H dock and fuel dock replacement, engineering and design, and the actual fuel dock replacement that was identified as needing replacement in our master plan. Pillar Point Harbor parking lot improvements, Pillar Point Harbor launch ramp, restroom, and boat wash, the Pillar Point habitat restoration, and the Pillar Point coastal trail improvement, signage and wayfinding program, and the shoreline rock slope protection, which is also was a master plan addition. A little bit of the background, items 1 through 11 in the amount of $21,279,780 was what the board approved at the June meeting. It is included in the capital improvement program. The 5-year CIP capital improvement program also provided projects pending funding. Those are listed as 1 through 9 in the staff report. Those are $31,550,623. The budget document included an estimate of approximately $9.3 million in available working capital at a end of the 5-year forecast. The actual working capital balance was a little over 2.7 above the budgeted projections, resulting in about $12 million available to plan for funding of additional capital projects. And taking those into consideration, that's how we came up with the list above that's part of the motion. Again, the Johnson Pier reconfiguration, which was just approved. The fuel dock at Pillar Point Harbor. The restroom and boat wash area at Pillar Point Harbor. We needed some of that money for the additional purchase of the admin building. And adding in Oyster Point Marina access ramps, the shoreline rock slope protection, replacement of dock GF&E engineering and design, parking lot improvements, habitat restoration, the coastal trail improvement, signage, wayfinding program, the West Shoreline Protection Project. We needed an additional amount for that of 1.2 million for $48,558, and Oyster Point Marina, 40,000 square foot parcel. Taking the things that we don't have funding for is items 1 through 4. We have approximately 45,800,000 need for additional funding. And that would be to replace the Pillar Point Harbor Docks GF&H. We only talked about the engineering, design and engineering costs. The Johnson Pier reconfiguration HDock and fuel dock, which we do have the funding for the fuel dock. That's $18 million extra. The replacements of docks 1 through 6 in the East Basin, that's $16 million, and replacement of dock 7 at Oyster Point Marina, that's 2.8 million. With the first 2 listed projects, the district is expected to meet the requirements of a 30-year bond issuance. And attached to this, the Revenue and Income Committee report is a debt service schedule, assuming a 3.5% interest rate for $27 million. The annual payments on that $27 million would be a little over 1.4 million. The current terms of the operating agreement between the district and the city of South San Francisco, or the projects 3 and 4, would not likely be eligible for financing. And then in addition, there is a project that has been raised that was not in the capital improvement program, but we have been discussing that. Even this afternoon, we discussed that a little more, and that's replacing the tenant row at Pillar Point Harbor, and that's another $6 million estimate. And with our current forecast in the fiscal year 24-25, we have approximately $450,000 that our revenues exceed our expenditures. So that is the room in that year's budget that we could use to pay for debt service. And if we, if that forecast doesn't change, which I do expect, forecast 5 years forecast to constantly be evolving, but with what we know today, that would allow the district to issue debt of around $8,350,000. So we would still be short in the $27 million that we would need for the work at Pillar Point Harbor. Staff did contact the Division of Boating and Waterways for information regarding the loans, but the interest rate's high, and there may not be any funding available for this loan in this fiscal year. In addition, the Oyster Point Marina projects would not qualify, and that is not recommended at this time. The Revenue and Income Committee recommends that we complete the preliminary engineering for the Pillar Point Harbor projects, receive the engineer's construction estimates, and be within 3 months of obtaining all the permits for the Pillar Point Harbor projects listed. Staff will then issue an RFP for bond counsel and financial advisors, and they will help us through the preparation of an official statement, a rating agency presentation, analysis of options, and the placement of debt. And the goal there would be to issue debt as close to the issuing of the bid documents as possible. Some of the things that might allow a smaller gap in between the funding needed and the funding that we think we can afford at this point in time is maybe our revenues increase, our expenditures decrease, or we have one-time money, additional money from grant sources or other sources. That concludes the presentation of the committee report.
Thank you, Julie. I see that there is a hand raised by Commissioner Ryring. Commissioner Ryring, do you have a comment or comments to make,
Yeah, thank you.
questions to ask?
Thank you, President Shane Crawley. Thank you, Julie. There are some very exciting projects on the horizon for the district, and this agenda item encapsulates quite a few of them. And I want to thank our staff and you especially, Julie, for the phenomenal work that you do on our behalf regarding the operating budgets and capital improvement plans. I have a couple of things I'd like to talk about in this agenda item. First, I'd like to propose that we add Doc D to item number 3. So we would look at replacing Docs D, E, F, and G. And then this might be a little complicated, but maybe Tricia can advise us. I'd like to see this agenda item approved absent item number 2. And I'd like to see if we can substitute or move to a future meeting a review of the design and engineering for Pillar Point Tenant Row instead of this item. So, and like to know what the other commissioners think of this.
Commissioner Mateusz, I think you're unmuted.
I too would like 2 cut out of this. In fact, I'd like 1 cut out of this to review funding status for Oyster Point, our responsibility, their responsibility, review the MOU. As far as 40,000 square foot building, technically, I would like to see a 100% commitment by South San Francisco to take care of that entire building, expense, design, implementation. I'm glad that Nancy brought up Dock D. You walk down the pier, we don't want to fix all but one dock. We didn't want one shoddy dock down there. We got to take care of that whole side. So I concur with that part. But if possible, I'd like to remove 1 and 2 from that list.
For a future discussion, Commissioner Mateusz?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Zimke, I see that you're unmuted.
Yeah, I can't say as I disagree with the removal of item number 2. That's perhaps further out in the future. Item number 1, I guess I would defer back to Mr. Pruitt on what he thinks might be necessary. You know, the access ramps to docks 1 through 6, even after the Bay Trail construction is complete, those existing access ramps will be flooded out in king tides. So I think to try and meet the needs of our tenants on docks 1 through 6, I think that's something that we kind of need to keep on the horizon. Now, if you want to discuss that in a separate meeting, I suppose it's okay, but it's not something we can delay talking about for a long period of time.
Thank you. Commissioner Lorenz, did you have a comment? You're unmuted.
Yes, I do. Well, a couple comments. I definitely agree with Tom on his approach to the building with South San Francisco. So can someone give me an idea of what we're actually removing? Where is that list? Because if I'm a little confused, I think the public might be.
So Commissioner Lorenz, it's, if I'm reading this right, it's page 4 of 4 of the staff report under
Okay.
committee recommendations / motion. There are 10 items. And
President Crawley, if I can ask Julie to share her screen again with those. 10
yeah,
items.
yeah, would that help you?
That'd be best.
Okay. Julie, let me, okay, there we go. Thanks.
There it is.
Can you see it?
Yes. So we're talking removing items 1 and 2.
Well, no, so let me just clarify. Commissioner Wiring and Commissioner Lorenz, and I believe even Commissioner Zemke are okay with moving item 2 as based on their comments, but please correct me if I'm
But
speaking out of
That's
turn.
correct. I would agree with removing item number 2.
Right, and Commissioner Wiring and Commissioner Mateusz suggested removing item 1. And I think Commissioner Wiring, did you agree with that as well? I can't remember.
Yes,
Okay, but then Commissioner Zemke was thinking
but
that,
I do think that Commissioner Zemke's point that it's not something that we can put off indefinitely is well taken. And so it should be, we should ask that this be put on a future agenda item as soon as possible.
or as Commissioner Zemke noted, that maybe even keep it on in this report based on what the general manager has suggested. And so, but Commissioner Mateusz suggested removing item 1. Is that correct, Commissioner Mateusz?
Well, I just wanted to make sure that we're reviewing the funding status and making sure that there's funding and building plans on the part of South San Francisco, because some of the construction projects have kind of fallen behind. There's a lot going on, and I just want to see that we have a commitment there, but I want to see that their commitment is being upheld as well. So I don't know if item 1 would delay things, but I just want a review of the funding, the building, the construction, the status, and a timeline. I guess we are kind of up against a timeline now for King Tides, but having a report on who's doing what, when, and where, or 1 would be particularly handy. On item 2, I think there's agreement to remove that out of this particular list. And I do believe that there's agreement on adding Doc D on item 4 or
Yes.
item 3.
Yeah, item 3. So Commissioner Lorenz, does that kind of help give you the overview of where the other commissioners are?
Yep.
And do you have any thoughts that you want to, or comments you'd like to make?
Boy, I sure do.
Okay, this is your time.
So where to begin? Okay, I'm definitely, as I just stated earlier, I'm not for spending our money on Oyster Point Marina. And the last time I voted no for budget items that had Oyster Point Marina items on it, as well as projects that were near and dear to my heart, such as the West Dale project and coastal trail improvements at Pillar Point. The headlines were Commissioner Lorenz doesn't support environmental protection, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to try a different approach. When I vote yes for this, I'm going to vote yes with a strong objection to spending money at Oyster Point on these projects. But I'm happy to see that we're, at least for now, removing the 40,000 square foot parcel building, and we're going to review this Oyster Point West Basin access. I think Tom's exactly right. We need to see more of what's going on there.
Commissioner Ryring, I see that your hand is up, and then Jim Pruitt, I'll call you on you after Commissioner Ryring.
Yeah, this discussion brings up something for me. I wouldn't be opposed to removing item 1 from this agenda and proposing a future agenda item to review the funding status of all of our projects at Oyster Point. I for one would really like to see where we're at on that.
Jim,
we can.
Oh, sorry, Nancy.
I know that we have an opportunity at the end of the meeting to have more discussion about future agenda items, but I just wanted to make the point that I'm not opposed to having item 1 removed for future discussion. Did Jim already weigh in on this?
No, his hand is up right now, and you were kind of cutting in and out, Nancy. I didn't mean to interrupt you. So let me call on the general manager right now to give his 2 cents, because he's had his hand up as well. Jim?
Thank you. Hopefully my advice is worth at least 3 cents. With respect to item number 1, President Change Carly and the board, the OPM West Basin access ramps for docks 1 through 6. We can add onto that the design and engineering, because the actual funding of the project itself, we can bring back to the board at a future date for the funding. But I think it's critical that we at least get the design and engineering underway so that we have a project that is shovel ready to move forward. I will prepare a report for the board on the funding, the buildings, and the timelines and the current constructions of Oyster Point and where the money came from to build what's out there now and into the future. And I'll have that prepared for the board, hopefully in the November meeting, if not the December meeting. And then also, I don't want the recommendation from Commissioner Ryring about Tenant Row, investigating Tenant Row as an alternative to item number 2. Approve the designing engineering of a new Tenant Row at Pillar Point Harbor. Again, limited to designing engineering first. And then once we have that, then we can look at funding sources and have a shovel ready project to go. But that was the Vice President Ryring's suggestion, and I didn't want to get that lost. But I think 1 through 6, the ramps have to be put in. They flood now during plus tides. It's not very often, but it isolates all those docks. And it also floods all the utilities and causes further damage every time it floods our current landings. By raising those landings, we'll be able to get all that out of the water and provide safe access for our tenants down to those docks. So my recommendation would be approve the design and engineering for docks 1 through 6, approve the design and engineering for the new a new Tenant Row building at Pillar Point Harbor, and then direction up to the general manager to prepare a report on the funding, building schedules, timelines, and sources of income at Oyster Point Marina.
So let me just clarify, Jim, for item 2, which is the 40,000 square foot parcel building, where does that fit in? Because it sounds like that's a lot of, I think I would say that pretty much all the commissioners would probably want to remove that for a future discussion item.
I agree, and that's knowing what the board
oriented.
Hearing the opinion of the board, that's my recommendation, is instead of saying Oyster Point Marina 40,000 square foot building, replace that with the
Tenant
design
Row.
and engineering of Tenant Row at Pillar Point Harbor.
Okay, Commissioner Ryring, I think you have your hand up still.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, but that, thank you, Jim. That sounds good to me.
Commissioner Zimke, just a quick question. You're okay with the 40,000 square foot parcel being kind of put on hold a
Yes,
little
I
bit?
am. I think that's further out in the future. We can talk about that at a future date.
Okay, so I'll open this up to public comment right now, and then we can resume discussion as a commission after public comment if y'all wish. John Olam.
Thank you, President Corrali. Quite often, you'll see board members, commissioners, council members thank staff for writing a report or doing a good job. And I've always thought that was kind of interesting. I mean, that's what those people get paid to do. But in this case, staff deserves all kinds of kudos. What people need to understand is, even though there's no one here to listen to it, what people need to understand is this Harbor Commission voted to end the efforts that were required to obtain the money that's needed to deal with the situation at Pillar Point Harbor. And it was not the wisdom of the commissioners that put this back on the agenda. It was the wisdom of staff. Staff remembered and made it really clear who they serve. They do not serve the interests of people who are looking for higher office or people who want to have a tea party and just socialize. They serve the interests of the people who make a living out at the harbor and the people of San Mateo County. And by forcing you all to put this back on your agenda and deal with it, you should all thank them for having that kind of courage, because none of you did. And I know you're going to go ahead and thank yourselves for all the courage that you presented, but just so you know, everybody who understands what has happened here gets that it's staff that has come to the rescue of the Harbor District, not the commissioners. Thank you.
Any other public comment? I'm going to close public comment, and I actually have a comment to make. I want to thank staff for working with the board now that we're actually able to come together and have real discussions on real issues that this Harbor District is facing. So I want to thank the board and I want to thank the staff for working together for the first time in a long time. So thank you. So I want to make sure that the public knows that this is a collaboration with the board and the staff. And I'm glad that we were the revenue and ad hoc or the ad hoc revenue and income committee was able to look at this in conjunction with staff's recommendations and the input from the committee members, Commissioner Ryring and myself, as well as public input, because it was significant, which is the reason that I, as the chair of this ad hoc committee, allowed this ad hoc committee meeting to be open to the public. So thank you, Jim and Julie, and thank you to Commissioner Zimke, Commissioner Lorenas, Commissioner Mateusz for listening and being cognizant of the issues that we are facing and for engaging in this conversation. So I just want to get back to the items. It sounds like the 40,000 square foot parcel should be taken off. I think there was a split on item 1, which is the access ramps at Oyster Point for docks 1 through 6. I think that Commissioner Zimke and actually not Commissioner Zimke, the general manager thinks that it's a good idea to at least look at this design and engineering phase or moving forward with that. And I think Commissioner Zimke is in support of that. I'm actually in support of that as well. And so I just want to put that up for discussion, but also knowing that item 2 will be off and tenant row will be there. So really the outstanding item at this point is item 1. So Commissioner Mateusz, just to complete your thoughts, I don't know, after listening to the general manager what your thoughts are with regard to item 1, leaving it in there or not.
I'd leave it in there. It's imperative to start looking at the design and implementation, especially before the King Tide events come in. And I don't even think that it could be completed by then, but we've got to get it started. So I'm fine with leaving 1 in.
Commissioner Ryring? Oh, I don't,
Yes, that sounds fine.
Commissioner Lorenz?
I've made my comments on this.
Okay, so right now then, Jim, it sounds like, if we look at your list, it sounds like we would substitute, we keep item 1 in and substitute the tenant row for Oyster Point Marina's 40,000 square foot parcel building and keep the rest in.
If I could reread them. Go ahead, Tricia.
1 minute, yeah, 1 minute. The way this agenda item is set up, I really think the best way to approach this is you can remove items that you were going to approve. I think if you're going to substitute in an item, and I think that
We
should
vote
be
on that.
I think that needs to be an agenda item in the future. It needs to show up on the agenda. So I think that the motion that you take today could remove items and then consider in the future what item you want to add back as a separate agenda item.
Okay.
But we can amend number 1 by saying OPM West Basin access ramps and docks 1 through 6 design and engineering.
Right, because I view that as kind of limiting the
Same.
scope, yeah,
Okay.
what you're
Okay.
approving.
That's fine. Commissioner Mateusz, are you okay with that? Since you were the initial
Yes.
person, okay. Okay, and so then we'll make that amendment for item 1 and then remove item 2, which is the Oyster Point Marina for the 40,000 square foot parcel building. So is there a motion to authorize the general manager to proceed with the following additional capital improvement projects that were not listed as funded projects in the 2021-22 adopted capital improvement plan, which will now eliminate item 2, but also amend number 1, which is the Oyster Point West Basin access ramps for docks 1 through 6 for the design and engineering plans.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any other commissioner discussion? Okay, roll call please, Julie.
Melanie?
Or I'm sorry, Melanie. Sorry, I'm looking at Julie right in the corner of my screen. Sorry.
She can do it if she wants. No. Commissioner
It's your show,
Zemke?
Melanie.
Commissioner Zemke?
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Aye, as I said, under protest of spending money on Oyster Point.
Commissioner Chang-Karali?
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring?
Aye.
Commissioner Mateusz?
Aye.
So this motion carries. So I would like, it's 3:40 right now, and we usually have a deadline of 4 o'clock. I would like to, I think we need to extend the time for this meeting because I think we've got 3 other items to discuss. So is there a motion to extend the time of this meeting to 4:30?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call, please. Melanie?
Commissioner Lorenz?
Aye.
Commissioner Chang-Karali?
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring?
Aye.
Commissioner Mateusz?
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke?
Aye.
Okay, great. So please note, Melanie, that our meeting will be extended right now to 4:30. So now we are on item 12, the Revenue and Income Ad Hoc Committee Report, expanded fish sales by commercial fish buyers and in the fisherman's market. Jim, would you like to kick off this item? This is an exciting one, I think.
Yes, and again, good afternoon, President Chang-Karali and board members. This is a revenue and income ad hoc committee report that I'm presenting. resulting from the September 23rd Revenue and Income Ad Hoc meeting. At the meeting, the board considered expanded commercial fish sales directly to the public by district tenants located at the end of the Johnson Pier, and also the possibility of a fisherman's market at Pillar Point Harbor. The recommended motions by the committee to the full board are: motion 1, the fish buying companies leasing space on Johnson Pier, currently McHenry Fisheries, 3 Captain Seafood Products, Morningstar Fisheries, are authorized to expand their off-the-dock commercial sales directly to the public of processed fish products, subject to the following conditions. All sales take place from their leased space. Only seafood product landed on Johnson Pier be offered for retail sale. The percentage of gross sales be set at 3%. No sales activity takes place during active loading or offloading of a fishing vessel, and individual fish buyers are required to obtain all required permits. Motion 2, the general manager is directed to explore the possibility of the district establishing a fisherman's market at Pillar Point Harbor to include estimated costs to establish a market and bring the issue before the board, Harbor Board of Commissioners on or before December 15th for further consideration. This is in line with our district vision, our district core values, and our district goals and objectives of the district as outlined in our strategic plan. The fish buyer lease provides the opportunity for them to have an agreement with the board to make changes to their lease per letter. And then also, it also permits them currently to sell directly to the public fish products as received from the fishing vessels. So this request is to expand their market to processed fish and crab, such as cooked crab or filleted fish. Back on August 18th, 2021, this issue was first presented to the Harbor Board of Commissioners. At that meeting, the board directed staff to do further research and bring it back before the Revenue and Income Ad Hoc Committee, which we did, and gained further public input. The staff presented it to the ad hoc committee on September 23rd. And it was a publicly noticed meeting with an agenda and open to the public via Zoom. The meeting was, the current practice right now is expanded that they can sell directly to the public fish as received off the boat. Under that practice, the districts received $158 this year, $411 last year, and then $298 in fiscal year 2018-2019. The district sales, direct sales to the public of processed seafood will require an additional permit from the San Mateo County Health Department, which they will be responsible to obtain. Staff's recommendation, if expanded fish sales are allowed at Johnson Pier, or the original recommendation was all sales take place from the pier. The products are only loaded on Johnson Pier, be offered for sale. The percentage set at 3%. No sales activity take place during active loading unless escorted by a representative of the fish buyer. The committee has changed that recommendation as mentioned, and individual fish buyers are required to get all required permits. During the committee meetings, comments were received from the lessees and present that they do not conduct off-the-dock sales during commercial offloads of fish or crab. As a result, the committee does not recommend off-the-dock sales during active fish loading. With respect to the fisherman's market, the topic was brought up at the meeting. The fisherman's market is permitted in the county of San Mateo under the Health and Safety Code. A permit is required for individual fishermen if they participate in a fish market, or an organization can sponsor a market and hold the overall permit. It's staff's opinion as shared with the committee that requiring each fish buyer to have their own fisherman's market permit and to require them to fulfill all the requirements of hand washing stations, restrooms, utensil washing stations, and cutting boards, that it have to be covered, that there have to be plenty of parking, would be too much. So the staff recommended to the committee that the harbor explore the option of the district sponsoring a fisherman's market at Pillar Point Harbor, and then allowing fishermen to come up and participate at the fisherman's market. That would significantly reduce the traffic on busy weekends off the pier and to the market. Again, and then the committee's recommendation I outlined already. And then the second motion was to direct me to further explore that fisherman's market. Barring any questions, that's the committee report.
Why don't we start off? Is there a motion for the committee recommendation for the first motion for the fish buying companies leasing space on Johnson Pier, currently McHenry Fisheries, 3 Captain Seafood Products, and Morningstar's Fishery, to authorize to have them expand their off-the-dock commercial sales directly to the public of processed fish projects, subject to the following conditions. All sales take place from their leased space. Only seafood product landed on Johnson Pier be offered for retail sale. The percentage of gross sales be set at 3%. No sales activity takes place during active loading, offloading of a fishing vessel, and individual fish buyers are required to obtain all required permits. Because I think we need to take these motions separately. That's motion 1. Is there a motion to approve that?
I will so move.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on this? Commissioner Raring,
Oh,
Commissioner Lorenz? Okay, let's do a roll call, please, on this first motion. Oh, I don't see any public comment either. So if you'd like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. I'll close public comment. Roll call, please, on motion number 1.
Commissioner Ryrie,
aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Chan-Crowley.
Aye. So that motion carries. And motion number 2 is to direct the general manager to explore the possibility of the Harbor District establishing a fisherman's market at Pillar Point Harbor to include estimated costs to establish the market and bring the issue before the Harbor Board on or before December 15th, 2021 for further consideration. Is there a motion to direct the general manager for this?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Matoush.
So moved.
Yep. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll open this up to public comments. I don't see any hands raised, but if you'd like to make a public comment on this motion, please raise your hand. Okay, I'll close any public comment, or I'll close public comment and open it up to commissioner comments or questions. Commissioner Lorenz?
My only comment is I think it's a great idea to explore this, potentially solve a lot of problems.
Thank you, Commissioner Zemke.
Nope. Sounds good to me.
Okay. Okay, I don't have any comments. I just want to thank the staff for putting together these reports. I think these are both great ideas, and we've been working with the fishing community on these items. So thank you, and thank you to the community for, kind of helping us see their different issues. So thank you, everybody. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Chan-Crowley,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryrie.
Aye.
Okay, so that motion carries. Thank you so much. And then we're moving on to item 13, which is San Mateo County Harbor District Coastside Search and Rescue Capabilities and Requirements. Jim.
Good afternoon again. This is an issue that I've had concerns with since arriving at the district and seeing the great work that our deputy harbor masters do with respect to search and rescue capabilities and the risks that they take. This strictly affects or deals with coastside search and rescue and does not address bayside. Those are two different situations and areas of operation that require different approaches. But for the coastside, and I'm going to read this verbatim because I think it's important. But the district has been performing search and rescue and maritime assist on the coastside for several decades. The public users of Pillar Point Harbor and other government agencies have grown to expect the district to provide world-class search and rescue maritime assist. The deputy harbor masters take great pride in their work as search and rescue professionals, as does the harbor district. However, the program as it is currently staffed and funded is placing both the staff, the harbor, and those we rescue at risk. In addition, the cost to the harbor district to maintain even a limited search and rescue capability is negatively affecting the district's ability to support its primary mission of supporting the harbor and marina. It's important to note overall in this search and rescue topic that there's no legal requirement for the harbor district to provide search and rescue and maritime assistance. Both services are provided under discretionary authority and associated harbor marina activity. And we have been doing that, as I said, for decades, and we've been doing it very, very well. My recommended motion to the board or staff is affirm the general manager's decision to implement a formal comprehensive risk assessment procedure with respect to each search and rescue maritime assist response case, taking into consideration staffing resources, sea state weather, and other applicable factors. And then I'm requesting guidance to close the funding gap, to properly staff, outfit, train deputy harbor masters to provide world-class search and rescue capabilities for the coastside while also ensuring safety of Pillar Point Harbor. There are several laws, both in federal laws, harbor navigation state laws, code laws, and then ordinance codes that apply to search and rescue and maritime assists. Discussing this matter and addressing it is in line with our mission, our core values, and 5 of our goals from the strategic plan. The background on this is the coastside, as we all know, poses several hazards to the maritime users, from the average beachgoer and to the most experienced fisherman and mariner. The coastside is an exposed coastline to the awesome power of the Pacific Ocean. It's ragged, remote, has remote beaches, exposed rocks, and large surf. Several deaths are attributed directly to the surf on an annual basis. The coastside places a large demand on search and rescue up and down the coast from Gray Whale Cove in the north to Pigeon Point in the south. There's multiple agencies that cover search and rescue here on the coastside, starting with the U.S. Coast Guard on the federal level, on the state of California through state parks, the Highway Patrol and their helicopter, CAL FIRE. Then San Mateo County itself has responsibilities. The San Mateo County Sheriff Office, the Coastside Fire Protection District, Half Moon Bay, and then of course the San Mateo County Harbor District through our discretionary authorities. And I don't say this very lightly, but the San Mateo County Harbor District is the maritime search and rescue experts on the coastside. Not cliffside or beach rescue, but we are the maritime experts here on the coastside. We know the coves, we know the beaches, and we know the currents. On multiple occasions, deputy harbor masters from Pillar Point Harbor have been the first on scene and have saved lives or protected property that would have been lost or destroyed if we did not provide this service. And it's based on, again, on the rapid response and expertise of our deputy harbor masters. However, the harbor master or the district itself is being challenged to continue this service to the coast side safely and at a level required due to lack of resources, both personnel and assets. The harbor district cannot continue to provide this discretionary service safely and without negatively impacting the primary duty of providing a safe and material condition of the harbor. Over the past 3 years, and these are startling numbers when I first researched them, but over the last 3 years, Pillar Point Harbor Deputy Harbor Masters have responded to over 313 search and rescue cases and 631 maritime assist cases. The cost to maintain our current capability at Pillar Point has cost the Harbor District $1,053,908 over the past 3 years, or an average of $351,302 per year. And I'll share my screen with you so you can see the chart. Hopefully you're able to see the chart, but the vessel refit, this is a 3 year, over 3 years, these numbers, but vessel refit on our vessels was 350,000, engine work, 56,000, staff operation and training time, $210,000. The training time is important because once you get your certification from one of the classes you go to, you have to maintain monthly underway hours and training to maintain that certification. And that's added staff time to the district that the district has to absorb. Vessel maintenance is 76,000. And then we lose about $26,000 a year in slip revenue because of our vessels taking up spots. Personal watercraft and jet ski program has been quite expensive in the last 3 years. We purchase of personal watercraft, 43,000. Gear with the wetsuits and comms, 16,000. The floating docks specific for the jet skis, 4,500. Staff training and time to maintain certification, 201,600. Certification classes is 18,000. Lost slip revenue, 3,200. Maintenance, 8,600. And upfitting for search and rescue. So the equipment we have to attach. This takes into consideration the jet skis that we lost in January 2019 at the Cal Ranch State Beach. Again, that's over a 3-year period. We were able to recover $16,700 over the 3-year period for maritime assist cases, which we charged the mariners for, but we cannot charge for search and rescue. Launching for a search and rescue case right now, or a maritime assist case, with our current staffing levels and resources, can and routinely does place our deputy harbor masters at risk. And I think it's an unacceptable risk. We only have 2 response boats. They're very limited. We have 2 response boats. There is very limited backup in the event of responding units getting in trouble. The second vessel is essential to officer safety, especially given that most search and rescue cases are conducted when the weather and the surf is at its worst. The harbor also is minimally staffed to meet the core missions. And a lot of times we're down to 2 harbor masters at the harbor, and it takes a minimum of 2 people to operate our boats. When they respond to a search and rescue case, that leaves the harbor empty on occasion and places the harbor at risk. This was proven by 2 separate cases this year where we had vessel fires in the harbor. And because of the fast response of the deputy harbor masters in securing the power and doing immediate response to the fires, both fires were quickly put out and contained before the fire department arrived and limited to 1 vessel only. If the deputy harbor masters were out on a maritime assist and our search and rescue case at that time, it could have been much, much worse because we wouldn't have been there to put out the fire immediately. And that comes to a risk assessment Right now, our deputy harbor masters, again, take extreme pride in what they do, as do we as the district. But a lot of times we go out at very, very high risk levels, and we need to consider that risk before departing the dock. So earlier this year, we implemented a draft risk assessment model called the GAR model, and it's part of the package provided to the board. And it's a general assessment of risk, and it gives you kind of a traffic light, and that's green, amber, and red, or green, yellow, and red. If your risk level is green, you're good to go. If it's yellow, it should have some further conversations to lower your risk, like adding another boat or adding another crew member, or if it's red, you don't go until you're able to lower your risk level, because you don't want to put yourself and your vessel at risk at such a high risk level where you have a chance of not coming back. So we implemented that GAR model, and here's a picture of it. The low risk, each crew member on the boat will have some points assigned, and then depending on the numbers that comes through, it's either low, medium, or high risk. Recent cases where we've had a high risk, such as we did not use the GAR model, but using it as an example, the Cow Ranch State Beach, that was an extremely high risk evolution originally. However, we launched both jet ski operators were highly skilled and certified to do the rescue. Both jet skis were operating properly, and we launched a third a rescue boat on top of that to serve as a comm platform, which reduced the risk a lot and got it down to either the high orange or low red. But the reward for that risk was to save a life. So we went and did that, and the life was saved. We lost both jet skis, but both deputy harbor masters came out of it, the rescue alive. So that was a fantastic example of search and rescue by the district, and also measures we take to reduce the GAR score in future cases. And what I'm asking is just, we've instituted this as a template, and I'm asking the district to endorse my decision to make this risk assessment a more formal program and further discuss it with the crew and getting the model correct. The GAR model is used around the world, but we can also change it to meet our needs here on the coast side. And I look forward to doing that with the staff. District assets, you see the Almar and the Radin, both fantastic boats. The Almar is much more capable. The Radin is more of a river or inter harbor working boat, and it does a fantastic job, but is not your best platform for open ocean rescue. The Almar is a little older, 2006, and needs to be replaced. It's down a lot. So as you can see, in the past 3 years, due to maintenance and mechanicals, the harbor was down to one operable boat for over 21 weeks, and no response boat for over 2.5 or over 2 weeks. And as of the date of this report, the harbor continues to be down to one boat, as the other boat is an extended repair period. I'm happy to report it's back now, which is good news for us. Ideally, when you send out a rescue team, you have 2 vessels. If it's close, you have 1 vessel ready in the harbor with a crew to deploy if needed, or if it's further away, you send 2 boats to serve as backup and also assist in communications. With respect to federal search and rescue support on the coast side, the Coast Guard, under the National Search and Rescue Plan, is responsible for search and rescue on the coast side. And they do a fantastic job with the assets they have. But their closest search and rescue station is Station Golden Gate, which is located in Marin County at the base of the Golden Gate Bridge, 31 nautical miles from Pillar Point Harbor. Well over an hour to get down here. But their response time or standard is 2 hours. So it is within their response time for their standards. They also have a air station at San Francisco International Airport with helicopters that can come over and support search and rescue on the coast side. But as we all know, the coast side is routinely fogged in, and the ability of the helicopter to be effective in the fog is very, very limited. And oftentimes prevents the helicopter from getting over the hill. State support is provided by California State Parks with the park rangers, who are also lifeguards, and they're limited to surfboards, paddleboards, and their swim buoys on the surf at the state beaches. And they also have jet skis on a trailer at Poplar Beach. And they cover, again, all county beaches from Gray Whale Cove down to Pigeon Point. So it's, while they do a fantastic job on the beaches, their deployment is limited due to the one set of jet skis and then launching them. They also provide, the state also provides search and rescue, the highway patrol, and their helicopter. In the county, under state law, in all jurisdictions of California, the sheriff, as a chief law enforcement officer for the county, retains responsibility for search and rescue of lost individuals and missing and downed aircraft occurring in that jurisdiction. So they have the responsibility for search and rescue on the coast side also. They do have a boat at Pillar Point Harbor. It is not staffed 24/7 as our boats, and they have to be called in to deploy on that boat, and the response is delayed as a result. It's not instantaneous as the Harbor District provides. On government aid assistance, there is local non-government assistance organizations such as the Mavericks Water Patrol, and they are highly skilled and qualified jet ski operators, and they've been established by local surfing community with the specific goal of supporting Mavericks wave surfing. But again, they don't maintain the 365, 24-hour presence that the public or the district wishes to maintain as search and rescue presence. To really properly outfit the district to continue to provide search and rescue in a safe manner, the district should have at least 3 rescue boats, and that would be a new properly sized and outfitted multi-mission response boat. Estimated cost is around $2 million. The vessel Almar, our current boat, is 15 years old and it's ended the useful life. It needs to be replaced with a better fitted and applicable boat. 1.5 million. So a total one-time cost of $3,500,000. And then the annual costs ongoing into the future to maintain what we would like to see as a search and rescue platform from the harbor. We'll need at least 6 new deputy harbor masters to enhance the staffing. Maintain funding, which would be about $750,000 annually. Maintain funding to support the boats and jet ski, maintenance funding, sorry. That'd be about $100,000 annually. And then training funding to support search and rescue training of $75,000 on an annual basis. And again, my motion is to affirm my decision to implement a formal comprehensive risk assessment procedure with each search and rescue maritime assist response case, taking into consideration the staffing, resources, sea state, weather, and other applicable factors, and then provide guidance to me to close the funding gap to properly staff, outfit, and train deputy harbor masters to provide a world-class maritime search and rescue capabilities on the coast side, while also ensuring the safety of Pillar Point Harbor. That's my report, barring any questions.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for that very comprehensive report. I mean, a job well done, and just, I think, information that is important for not just the commission to understand and know about, but also the public, since we have been operating and doing the function of water search and rescue, water rescue as well. you have a motion and your guidance. So do you want the motion to be separate from the guidance, or would you prefer to have the guidance with the motion?
It either way works for me.
Okay, well, let
It
me
may be
open.
easier to do the motion only.
Okay, so is there a motion? Well, let me open it up to commission. Well, is there a motion based on what the general manager has put together to affirm his decision to implement a formal comprehensive risk assessment procedure with respect to each search and rescue maritime assist response case, taking into consideration staffing, resources, sea state, weather, and other applicable factors?
I move to affirm the general manager's decision to implement a formal comprehensive risk assessment procedure with respect to each search and rescue maritime assist response case, taking into consideration staffing, resources, sea state, weather, and other applicable factors.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'll open it up to commissioner discussion now that there's a motion and a second, and thoughts. Commissioner Zimke, I see that you're
Yeah,
unmuted.
I'd just like to thank Jim for doing an excellent job on his work here and putting all these numbers together. It took a lot of thought and a lot of work to do that. I do appreciate it, and I do support this motion.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Well, Jim, you know,
Go past him. Why are you, what are you
Well,
doing? Go
Commissioner
fast when you go
Ryring,
fast.
you need to put yourself on mute, Commissioner Ryring.
okay.
Sorry, Commissioner Lorenz.
Well, I think based on my experience, I think this is a great thing. It's been a long time coming, and we definitely need this. Jim, I'm happy to see that you got it in front of us. It's really important for the decision making for our staff to have a document that gives them guidance on when to deploy and when not to, because it's really easy to get yourself into trouble. And we have great staff, but they want to go out and help people, but we do need to balance risk with safety.
Thank you. I'll open it up to public comment now for this motion. I don't see any hands, but if you would like to make any public comment. Oh, okay, William Smith. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, President Crowley. And thank you, Mr. Pruitt, for this comprehensive report. This is one of the primary functions of the harbor here, to provide this level and kind of support for the mariners along the coast. I, for one, do not begrudge supporting SAR in any way, shape, or form. If I was called to task, I certainly would rise to the occasion. I support the hiring of staff to support the SAR for this. And one of the things that I would like to mention is that I would like to see that staff have a merchant mariner document, captain's license as it is, as part of the hiring process for that. They would be fully qualified to operate the vessels basically right off the bat, with the addition of the SAR training, which I don't begrudge any of that at all. So in that regards, I support the hiring of additional assistant harbor masters, and that I believe that they would also need the towing endorsement for that license as well. This is one of the primary #1 functions of this harbor, and I support that. But I do take a little umbrage with $2 million for a SAR vessel. Being a little familiar with the costs of vessels and that sort of thing, that appears to be a bit high. And with that, I will say thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, I will close public comment on this motion. Can I just say one quick thing? This is an issue that's near and dear to my heart. So I do want to thank you, Jim, again, for putting this report together. But I also want to thank our partners who've worked with us over the years for, helping us, to save lives and help people out of dangerous situations. And I know that we've got different levels of government helping us from federal to local, but I also want to thank the Mavericks Water Patrol, which is a private group, who's worked with us for years and who, does the training and works with our fantastic Harbor Patrol staff. So thank you to the Mavericks Water Patrol. Jim, so we've got this motion. Why don't we make a vote on this motion and then we'll go to the guidance section. I'll make one last call to the commissioners if they would like to make any other comments or raise their hands. Okay, let's do Commissioner Matoush.
The degree of professionalism in this report is shocking compared to what I've seen for over 30 years of attending Harbor Commission meetings. So I'd like to thank the general manager and think we really picked the right guy on this one. The experience he has in the background, the amount that he was able to track down and put in this one report in a short time was truly amazing. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Okay, any other commissioner comments? If not, let's go for a roll call, please. Melanie?
Mr. Zemke,
Aye.
Mr. Lorenz,
Aye.
Mr. Chankrali,
Aye.
Mr. Ryring,
Aye.
Mr. Matoush.
Aye.
Great, that motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Jim, for a wonderful report and very detailed. And let's move on to your guidance. So Jim, you mentioned in there to provide guidance to you to close the funding gap to properly staff, outfit, and train deputy harbor masters to provide world-time maritime search and rescue capabilities for the coast side, while also ensuring the safety of Pillar Point Harbor, which is obviously very important.
Yes, if I could just.
Yes, please.
That's taking into consideration the report on what we're currently doing now, where we're providing it when we're available and have the properly trained staff and the equipment. And that's not 24/7. That's a limited capability. So
Right.
sometimes we're not available. The enhanced one will increase our availability. It won't give us 100%, but it'll definitely increase it a lot to where we will be available with the appropriate staffing, with the appropriate training, and with the appropriate equipment. We'll still have to work out, operations and procedures with staff and the crew down at Pillar Point Harbor, but this is just the starting gate of a decision for the board. Does the board want us to continue to expand search and rescue like we have been, especially when we brought on the brand new staff in 2019, we increased search and rescue at that point because we had additional staffing. But again, I think we need to set a limit on our search and rescue based on the current staffing levels and equipment, and not be the first call all the time like we are now. Or if we want to be, which I think we should, we are the experts and we do a great job, and we're staffed 24/7 already. We just need enhanced. Do we want to fund that? And if we do want to fund it, do we want to fund it from our inherent budget to take it out of our operating budget now? Or do we want to seek funding from elsewhere? And that's the guidance I'm seeking from the board on which direction the board would like to see me to go.
Okay, I'll open it up for commissioner discussion. And if you have any questions, comments.
We are definitely, I hope you can hear me okay. I have very bad. I feel very strongly that we're going to need outside funding. I mean, I'm fully in support of it. I just think we're going to really need outside funding.
Thank you.
I would say that she was a mind reader. Commissioner Ryring was a mind reader to what I was thinking.
Commissioner Zimke?
I think that's correct. I have to reflect back on the discussion we had earlier about all of our upcoming demands on us for capital improvements. And if we did that out of our own pocket, we'd just make the situation worse on the capital improvement side of the puzzle.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Risk of sounding like a broken record, I think that, well, first of all, I agree that our search and rescue on the coast side is I would characterize it as one of our most important functions. Right up there with getting the pier done and maintaining our facilities. Our budget should reflect that. And I think we should, outside funding is always a great idea. But devil's in the details, and getting outside funding is not exactly the easiest thing to do. Maybe this falls in a category that might make it a little easier, I have no idea. But we should work with our budget to make this happen. It might be, maybe I'm a little biased towards this because I spent a lot of time on the water and I've seen a lot of things happen that required the services of the Coast Guard and our guys out on the water. And I feel very strongly that we need to support them, and we need to find the money either through our budget or both through our budget and with outside funding. But I wouldn't limit us to just getting outside funding to make this happen. It's too important, and our public relies on it, not just folks from San Mateo County, but anybody that comes to the coast around here. And San Mateo County is a big county. It stretches all the way to Santa Cruz County over by Waddell Creek to the border with San Francisco. We're talking a lot of coverage.
I would have to,
People as well, that we used to have a vessel assist operating out of Pillar Point. And I don't know if we have to make sure that we check with Boat US Vessel Assist and remind them of how busy we can be, because there's quite a distance. We've had the person come up from Santa Cruz to service boats in our area. And the vessel assist, I rode on that vessel a number of times. So I think that we also have to keep our eyes open to opportunities that take a little bit of the workload for some of the routine running out of fuel or having a clogged fuel filter and 30-mile tows.
thank you. So I agree with my fellow commissioners about the funding situation. And I also agree that it's a high priority. In fact, I think it's one of our highest priorities, given the fact that during the pandemic, we've had, record numbers of people coming to our shores or to the coast across, different areas of California. I think we're serving the public in probably the best way that we can in terms of water rescue right now. Funding is absolutely important. And so, Jim, let me ask you this in terms of guidance. I mean, I don't think that we can make a decision right away, but I don't even know if we know all of our options. I mean, where does FEMA come in here? Does the, Cal OES come in here in some way? I mean, I just don't know all of the options, but I'm wondering if we can give you guidance in terms of maybe coming back with a report, or if we have a study session on this issue, so that you can give us the options for funding. I know that, as I said, people from all over the Bay Area have come here. And I think that our funding needs to reflect that, at the risk of sounding cold, that our taxpayers should not foot the bill all the time, and that we will probably need other funding sources to disperse the risk to our taxpayers as well. So I'm just wondering if a study session makes sense, so that you can give us our funding options, so that we can figure out how to adequately fund from the outside, as well as even looking at our budget to fund internally.
in response to your comment, I hear it loud and clear from the board that the board wishes to pursue an enhanced search and rescue capability to meet the needs of the coast side, similar to how it's drafted in the report. That's not the final plan that can be changed, but that gives initial numbers. And the board is interested in both using organic budget monies that we have now or outside funding and how we can do that. So if the board gives me, if that's the direction from the board, I can come up with a plan to seek both outside funding and work towards meeting the objectives of getting another multi-mission boat and replacing the Almar with a newer boat that doesn't break down as much, and then go from there on the funding. So knowing that the board is, you're gonna give me that direction, but it sounds like the board is fully committed to continue to provide search and rescue on the coast side. And my job is to make sure we can do it safely with the crew and provide the crew with the proper equipment and training. And so if that's the guidance, you've provided me with enough guidance. I can come back to the board once I have further information or requests, but I think what you've provided me right now during this discussion is enough for me to be able to do my job.
Okay, so it is 4:29 and I want to finish this conversation, but can I have a motion to extend our meeting to 5 p.m. We have another item, and I mean, I think we'll be done by then, but we do need to extend our time.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Crankle,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryrie,
Aye.
Latouche,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Aye.
The motion carries, so we've got an extension to 5 p.m. So Jim, I think you're right. You have a good understanding of where the board is. And is this something that I can work with you on in terms of scheduling? If we wish to, if you want to bring something back as, I don't know, a study session or an agenda item. I mean, what does this board want? I think this is an important enough issue for us to have a dedicated discussion, because it would mean more funding from, different funding options. I think we need to look at what the funding options are, and we need to figure out how we can work with our labor group, because the Harbor Patrol staff is in Operating Engineers 3, which I think is an important stakeholder. And I also think that we need to look at how we piggyback on other agencies that or other stakeholders like law enforcement or emergency response. I don't want to rush this decision, obviously, but I do think we need a lot of information. I just am trying to figure out what this commission wants in terms of receiving information, whether it's a study session dedicated to this item or this issue, or just another agenda item.
My impression by what the general manager said, he understands the direction. This is not the type of thing that we're gonna put a week's effort in tracking answers down. I believe if we were to ask the general manager if he's clear on his direction, he could say yes or no.
Any other thoughts? Commissioner Lorenz, I see that you're waving your arms, your hand, but you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. I'm in complete agreement. I think he's got the picture.
Okay, so if everyone else is okay with that, Jim, I think you have your direction and guidance. I can work with you in terms of scheduling, and as you figure out how much information you're gathering, we'll need the kind of meeting that we'll need in the future.
Agreed. I clearly understand my direction. And once I have more information, I'll definitely come back to the board.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Jim, for the report, and thank you, commissioners, for your thoughts on this issue. So let's move to item 14, which is the California Division of Boating and Waterways Surrendered and Abandoned Vessel Exchange SAVE Grant, Financial Assistance for Demolition and Abandoned Vessels, Marine Debris, and Vessel Turn-In Program. And I believe this is John Moran's staff report. So John, welcome, and please kick off this discussion.
And if it's okay with you, I will take this on.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you.
Again, we've been offered $150,000 under the California Division of Boating and Waterways Surrendered and Abandoned Vessel Exchange Program or grant. And to be able to accept those money, the board needs to adopt a resolution as drafted and attached to the staff report. The resolution is draft 2113. And we're also asking the board to approve spending authority under the grant to the general manager. So all in all, the motion that we're recommending is adoption of resolution number 2113 to authorize the acceptance and execution of a California Boating and Waterways Surrendered and Abandoned Vessel Exchange Grant for $150,000 and authorize the general manager to expend the Department of Waterways Save Grant monies for removal of abandoned vessels at Oyster Point Marina and Pillar Point Harbor.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
So it's been moved by Commissioner Mateusz and seconded by Commissioner Zemke. I'll open this up to public comment. I don't see any hands, but if you would like to make a public comment, now is your opportunity. Okay, we'll close public comment and open it up to commissioner comments and questions. Commissioner Lorenas, you're unmuted, so I'm picking on you first.
I think I'll wait to hear what my fellow commissioners have to say.
Okay.
First.
Commissioner Zemke.
I have no particular comments on this one.
Commissioner Mateusz.
I would like to have seen the SAVE grant about twice that size because I've seen a number of boats go under the bulldozer and I know the expenses, I know the safety, I know the cleaning up that goes on. So I'm just going to approve what we have in front of us right now and hope that it grows in the future.
Commissioner Ryring.
No comments?
I have a quick Commissioner
Oh, go
Lorenas.
ahead. Go
I
ahead.
just had a quick question. So Jim, is there an opportunity for this grant to be a larger amount in the future or other similar grants that we can use to piggyback on this one?
This is the initial disbursement to all the different jurisdictions in California. If San Mateo County Harbor District only uses $100,000 of this, the state will ask us to transfer it to another jurisdiction who could use that money so it doesn't go to waste. So we, in the past, have taken advantage of that, and we're usually asking for money from that's not used to cover our expenses because we're very efficient in trying to keep the harbor as clean and safe as possible.
Commissioner Lorenas.
And I have to thank you, Jim, and John, and Chris. If you all have been at the harbor for a while, Tom, I'm sure you've seen this. It's probably the cleanest it's been with respect to derelict vessels and safer boats out there. You guys have done over the years. You've done a great job, and it has not been unnoticed. Made it a lot safer for folks to be anchored out there or to be on a mooring, especially with the kind of weather that we get here. So I know you guys have been at this for a long time. That you're not the only ones that have this problem. You go down the Moss Landings, you can see what's going on there. You guys have far exceeded the expectations, and I'm very happy you've done that. And so thank you.
Commissioner Ryring.
Yeah, I guess I would just like to point out that
Commissioner Ryring, I'm not sure if you can hear us, but you kind of cut out.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I would just like to point out that our legal expenses on today's agenda were slightly high, and this is one of the reasons. It's, you know, it's part of our operating expenses, unfortunately, that we need to control health and safety risks and make sure we have seaworthy vessels in the harbor.
Yeah, I agree with everything with what Commissioner Lorenas and Commissioner Ryring have both said. I also think that what we're doing, Jim, is really in keeping with our mission of, you know, safe and clean marinas. So thank you for putting the report together, and thank John too, if you don't mind.
I
So
will.
there's a motion and a second on the table. Why don't we just go for the roll call at this point? And Commissioner Ryring, you have your hand up still. Do you need to make another comment or not? I don't know if she can hear me. Okay, her hand's down. So roll call, please.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zepke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenas,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crowley.
Aye. Thank you, Jim. And so now we're on item F for commissioner comments. Commissioner Matoush.
I think that I've made a lot of comments today, and that's about all I need to make today.
Okay, Commissioner Lorenas.
I'm going with my broken record routine again. I'd like to see this meeting placed at a time the rest of the public, the interested public, can attend. Our staff and staff-related personnel have outnumbered the public the entire time we've had this meeting. We've had significantly important items on the agenda, and folks that have jobs and are busy can't attend these meetings in the middle of the day. That's it.
Commissioner Zemke.
Yeah, just again, I'd like to thank Job for doing his job very well and getting us staff reports that are very clear and concise and understandable, and particularly on item number 11, really brought into pretty sharp focus as the challenges that this district is going to be facing in the next 5 years, and trying to come up with funding sources for all of the demands that will be facing. So that needs to kind of be in front of us on a very real basis. So thanks, Jim.
Yes, and I'd like to thank you, Jim, and Julie and John and staff. Everyone has done a great job with keeping things going. And the reports today I thought were very substantive and very important. So thank you for moving the Harbor District forward. I think we're making a lot of progress, and I'm very happy with, you know, how the decisions that we have made today to move things forward. So thank you. Now we're on to item G, which is future agenda items. Is there anyone who'd like to put a future agenda item on I know that
I would.
Commissioner Ryring, I see your hand up.
Yes, especially in light of the fact that this month there was a devastating oil spill off the coast in Southern California at Huntington Beach. I'd like to propose a future agenda item to discuss and approve a resolution opposing offshore oil drilling along the San Mateo County coastline.
And I actually would support that, just like similar to what we did with the Bay Delta plan in support of that. Is that what you were thinking, Commissioner Ryring?
Yes, a resolution
letter of
just like
support?
that. Yep.
Okay, so we can put that on a future agenda, which could be the next month's agenda.
Great.
So are you making a motion for that? Because we do have to approve this.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, I'll second that. Any commissioner discussions or comments, or questions? Okay, let's go for a roll call, please.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Train Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring.
Aye.
So that motion carries.
In
Great.
light of having taken care of the majority of our agenda today, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any commissioner comments? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Train Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush.
Aye.
Great. This meeting is adjourned at 4:43. Thank you very much. And thank you to all the public members who attended today. Thank you.
Recording stopped.